What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. I mean, look at my shirt. It's just bright, shining. Well, I hope you're doing great. Today, we're going to talk about something very interesting. There was a hearing in the United States, Congressional hearing, where they call a general named General Langley, African-American general, discussing about Africom, which is an American force stationed in Africa, with the goals of exchanging knowledge and training with African soldiers and military. Now, what's happened is they asked him questions on how involved Africa has been with military coups in Africa. So literally what was happening there, they're trying to ask him, how many people have you been training lately in Africa? How many soldiers you've trained? And amongst those soldiers, how many have participated in African coups, which have claimed many lives and many a very horrendous situation? Let's watch. I'm going to make a comment right after.
Ballpark, just, how many?
Congressman, it would be a wild guess, right?
Seems like something we should know, right?
Over the years, we have trained a substantial number, especially in the Gulf of Guinea states, but including
Like more than 10,000?
It is more than 10,000.
More than 50,000?
I'd say we're reaching around 50,000
Okay.
at least.
And what percentage of the people we've trained end up participating in insurrections or coups against their own government?
Very small number, Congressman.
Very small number. Interesting.
Small number.
So what percentage do you think?
I'd say probably less than 1%.
Because it'd be like about 500, about 1% of 50,000.
Congressman, you may have that information. I don't at this time, but I know.
He doesn't have the information. Interesting.
Well, I know there are some, right? Like this is Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, and this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him? In Guinea?
By name, I cannot identify that.
Well, that guy in the middle with the big red hat, Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, that's him with a bunch of U.S. service members outside of our embassy. And just months after this photo was taken in 2021, he led a coup in Guinea and threw out the leader. Does that concern you?
Congressman, core values is what we start off with in IMA programs.
Unbelievable. I mean, Africom is an American group of soldiers, American force based in Africa with the goal of helping African nationals, African governments to be trained. It's a way of cooperation, military cooperation between the United States and African nations. Many people believe it's just a way to keep a footprint in Africa and control things that are happening on that side. So how many soldiers, how many military personnel have been trained within Africoms that happen to become part of coups in Africa that claim many lives? So that's the problem, fellas. I don't know why we need foreign forces in our lands. I really don't understand why. I mean, like a few days ago, we spoke about Sudan. We acknowledge that in Sudan there are forces. First we thought that Sudanese were fighting each other. We first thought that two generals in Sudan were fighting one another, looking to claim power. But then we learned that actually there was American footprints, American soldiers in Sudan that supposedly came to save American personnel from the embassy. Then we learned there was Wagner group in Sudan as well. They're playing the card and they're trying to get the hand over Sudan. I mean, this is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want foreign forces in Africa, because the bottom line is usually when they come for supposedly training soldiers in Africa, it ends up being conflict between two groups, because at the end of the day, whoever brings his military on African ground, he comes for his own agenda. Yes, and the agenda generally is what? Looking to get minerals, looking to get good from the soil of the country, and usually that doesn't go with peace. That's the problem. Usually the presence of any body, for that matter, foreign body in Africa, any military foreign body in Africa, does not bring peace. It's always covered around the training. We're here to train soldiers. We're here to exchange knowledge. We're here to bring the goods. But in reality, where these forces are found, you will always find rebellions, terrorism, insurrections, killings, horrendous situations. And I don't think any African want that, for that matter. I think it's about time for African to understand that we can actually cooperate with each other. Listen to me one more time. And obviously, you will notice that most of the time when things are related to Africa, they will use a black faith. Yes, it's very simple. In order to address Africans, you must use the African face. The lady that came to Africa to come and tell Africans, whoever deals with Russia with regard to commerce, with regard to exchange, with regard to business, is going to be facing sanctions from the United States. Who was a black woman, a black person, black skin.
If a country decides to engage with Russia where there are sanctions, then they are breaking those sanctions. They're breaking our sanctions, and in some cases, they're breaking UN sanctions with other countries. And we caution countries not to break those sanctions, because then if they do, they stand the chance of having actions taken against them for breaking.
So every time they want to use something against Africa, they will always use the black skin. That's what it is. And this general, obviously, just like us, is an African-American, black-skinned person who's in control of what's happening in Africom. So the bottom line is this. First of all, I don't think we should need armies against each other as brothers. I don't think it's necessary, number one. I don't know if you agree with me. Do we necessarily need to have the biggest weapons, the biggest bombs, the biggest missiles? What do you need that for? What do you need the biggest missiles if you want to live in peace? Yes, I know they say if you want peace, you must prepare war. Why do you want to prepare war? You actually want to prepare war because you live in an environment where people are hostile. Africans are generally not hostile with each other. Let's start from that. Africans with each other are generally not hostiles. If you look at stories of terrorism and all that type of stories, it's usually some people that are sponsored by foreign bodies because they're looking for something. If you look at Nigeria, those Boko Haram, whatever, they fighting necessarily around the ground that they have a lot of oil. It's about goods. It's about stealing. If you find terrorists in Mali, in Burkina Faso, it's usually because of the gold, because of the mines. If you see the killings in the Congo, it's usually because of the mines, because of the lithium, because of the cobalt. These are natural resources you use to build cell phones, to build satellites, for new technology. Yeah, you need all that type of stuff. And obviously, if you come to a country in an honest way, saying, I would like to take some of your goods, the tax rate is very high. So in order to beat the tax rate, we as foreign companies, we as multinationals will sponsor a small group of people to go and start a war in the Congo, to go and start, issues in the Congo, somewhere in Africa, in order for us to come and say, okay, we are peacekeepers. In the meantime, it's not really because of the peace that we're there. We're actually there because we actually sponsored the people that started the war, started the killing, so we can come and get the goods for free or for a very low tax rate. So it's all business. So again, I think Africans, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to equipment, should look at each other. We should start looking at one another on how to progress. You want to learn something, you feel like you need partnership with somebody, you should first look at African nationals before you look at foreign bodies. That's the only way to grow. There are two ways to grow. Either you learn from somebody that already knows. The second way is you learn at the job. Now, if somebody who has already won, who has already succeeded, is not necessarily good intentions towards you, what do? You look into trying to fix your own mistakes yourself. Let's say you want to build something. If you want to build it, there's two ways to do it. You're either going to find somebody that's already built it in the past, who has got the experience. Now, if you don't find such person, or if the person that you find is not necessarily a good person, who's not willing to help you without interest, what do? You learn how to build by yourself. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, you're going to fall. Yes, it's not going to work on the first shot, but eventually you will get to a point where you start developing by yourself. And that's what I'm saying. Africa is not against cooperation with foreign companies, foreign countries, with foreign forces, but our cooperation should be that of growth, that of progress, not a cooperation of destruction, not a cooperation of death. That we're not interested in. Not a cooperation that's only benefits one side of the group, one side of the world, while Africa continues to live in poverty and difficulties. That we do not accept. Thank you, fellas. Let me know how you feel. Is this something that you agree to? Do you agree that Africans should be looking into each other, should be helping one another instead of building forces against each other? Do we actually need foreign forces, foreign military? What's the use of it? What do we need it for? God bless.